Good evening, everyone, and Happy New Year to everyone. Let me call to order this meeting of the West Palm Beach Community Redevelopment Agency. Today is Monday, January 5th, 2026, and the time is 4 p.m. Are there any comments from the public? Any cards?
There's one card, Mayor.
Okay, J.F. Cole, Jr. You want to come speak, please?
Thank you, and thank you all for all the work you do for us. My name is Lauren Cole. I live on 1200 South Flagler, commonly known as the Trianon. My brief comments will be about traffic, particularly north-south through West Palm Beach. For the last 20 years, there's been no action, and I know it's not easy, but something has to be done about going north and south at West Palm Beach. When the boat show is here, and even without the boat show, there's only one lane on Olive, and that's typically clogged up with trucks. Since I've been in the Trianon, 25 years, the Bristol's been built, La Clara, Forte, North-South Flagler building, and now you're going to put up 28 floors and 32 floors right next to us in the First Family Church. I guess I could look forward to 2 a.m. concrete pours, the roads torn up for more sewer and water facilities, and there's just no rest. So you guys are going to lose your jobs unless somebody fixes this traffic problem, because it's getting worse. And whoever decided to put in that facility, the condos and the apartments on 25th Street, they need to take a ride north on Dixie and try to get to Broadway. There is one lane, and you got, I don't know how many units on condos and apartments going in on 25th Street. Think about it. How can you get to Broadway other than going up to 25th Street, take a left? So anyway, it's a mess. I know Trump has something to do with it, but maybe there needs to be more east-west access to get people over to Australian Avenue and use that as a way of getting north or south through the city. But it's a mess. Do you have any comments for me while I have 60 seconds left?
This is not interactive. You make your comments and then we move on.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Please try to fix something.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we'll now turn to the dais. Madam President, do you have any comments?
Thank you, Mayor. I did want to make a comment. Mr. Rugg, I appreciate that a few weeks back, I guess over a month now, when we had a resident come to a commission meeting talking about some concern about illegal activity in the community, you had responded specifically about a strategic approach about purchasing properties. I don't know if there's been any updates on that, whether that's now or in the future. Would like to get some of those updates.
Sure. Mayor, would you like me to respond now?
No, you can.
Thank you.
So the brokers that are working on the dedicated list of identified properties has been working for the last month, and so we know that they're actively out there pursuing some properties. In addition to that, one of the identified properties has also had a more formal listing where the owner is voluntarily put it on the market, and we've started some conversations with some of our housing partners to see how that could be, actually we could partner on the acquisition. So I can give you a lot more details on the specifics of those transactions, but so far we've sort of hit the ground running in a real positive way that I'm excited about, and hopefully have some future transactions and contracts and sales coming for the board later this year.
Thank you. I know that this was one step in the plan to disrupt some of the activity that was going on. I appreciate the update. Thank you.
Commissioner Fox.
Thank you, Mayor. Happy New Year, everyone. I have one question concerning the resident that was here speaking on traffic. Thank you for your comments. One of the questions you had was about opening up an east-west route on Australian, and then we do have the Fern Street crossing that is in the works, and I thought if Chris, if you have any updates on that, where we are in the timeline, that we could just share a little bit more. Thanks.
Sure, Mayor.
Yeah, go ahead.
Absolutely, Commissioner Fox. So where we are currently with the CRA's role is the acquisition of the final properties. And so the conversations with the existing owner is ongoing, and they have requested appraisals on their property. And so those appraisals have been ordered, and we're expecting to have those appraisals back here shortly. And then that will then lead to hopefully a negotiated price that will take the next step and ultimately come back to the board in the form of a purchase and sale contract.
Commissioner Warren.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to acknowledge the huge success of the toy drive that occurred in the historic Northwest with Commissioner Fox was there, along with our City of West Palm Beach Fire Department. Thank you for getting them out so that the children could enjoy the day. But it was the National Panhellenic Council and City Side Suites, and it's great when we see public, private, and nonprofit organizations come together to support our children. It was the most successful organic toy drive that I think I've ever seen, to see so many toys that were gathered and so many children that had such a great time. It was mind-blowing and amazingly successful. So congratulations to everyone that participated in that.
Commissioner Ward.
No comments, thank you.
I have no comments. Okay. Mr. Ruger, are there any additions, deletions, reorganization of the agenda?
No, Mayor.
All right. We do have one item on the consent calendar. Any questions or comments on consent? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Hearing no opposition, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item 7.1, presentation and update of the Center for Smart Streetscapes by Florida Atlantic University. Mr. Rube, do you want to tee this up?
Absolutely. So I'd like to welcome the team from the Center for Smart Streetscapes, Dr. Andrew Smith from Columbia University and Dr. Jason Hallstrom from Florida Atlantic University, to give an update on the Center for Smart Streetscapes. So just as a quick recap, this is an engineering research center that has been funded by the National Science Foundation as a result of some initial work that the city and the Knight Foundation did under the Mobility Intelligence Project. And so this engineering research center is designed to research a variety of things that I'll let Dr. Andrew Smith and Dr. Hallstrom speak about, but it really is to understand mobility in the city, how we can overlay our infrastructure with a digital layer of technology that really sort of helps all kinds of operations, but is built very much around community input and what the community will tell us, as well as protecting privacy. So each year they do a lot of work, and we like to share that annual update, since our downtown is essentially, well, our downtown and other parts of our city are essentially a laboratory where we're helping to understand a lot of ways that we can improve overall city operations to become a smart city. And there's actually an economic development component to it as well. So with that, I would like to welcome Dr. Andrew Smith to the podium. Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much for having me. And yeah, it's a privilege and honor to be able to share a little bit about updates from our center. So as Chris mentioned, we're the Center for Smart Streetscapes. And this is, as he mentioned, it's a National Science Foundation funded engineering research center. This is sort of the flagship research program conducted by the National Science Foundation, and we're the only one which is focused on smart cities. We're a partnership, academic partnership led by Columbia University together with Florida Atlantic University. You're going to hear from Jason in a moment, with Lehman College, which is a community college in New York City, and Rutgers at New Brunswick, New Jersey. We're focused on basically making cities more livable and safe through advanced technologies. And as you can see there, we have 5 different core technological research thrusts that we're pursuing to make this a reality, to explore advanced connectivity and wireless communications and edge computing in urban environments. Situational awareness, which is basically use of infrastructure sensing, an urban sensing, to be able to understand together with AI, to understand a scene at the streetscape level. We're very cognizant of the fact that a lot of smart cities initiatives are maybe held in some suspicion, it could be viewed as surveillance, and so we are baking in security, privacy, and governance by design. So very important what data is collected, how it's used, whether it's even stored at all. We're very mindful of designing that and engineering so that we do things right and that the community and public accept the benefits and are not giving up costs, but that there's a clear understanding of what's happening. And ultimately, that's a public interest technology component, and then we develop applications to address community identified needs. So we always start with community, government identified, so our stakeholder identified needs, and we work to address those. We have 3 test beds, and the West Palm Beach test bed here is a key part of our partnership. We also work on a test bed in New York City, in Harlem, and in New Brunswick, New Jersey. As Chris mentioned, we are not just a research entity. Our mission also extends to innovation, education and workforce development, and community engagement is a key part of that as well. So the areas which we are hoping to impact are these 5 thematic areas: of road safety and traffic efficiency, public safety, assistive technologies, the future of outdoor work, and hyper-local environmental understanding. So looking at advanced technologies to be able to better each of these areas of impact. And again, always prioritized by stakeholder engagement. So these are those 3 test beds I mentioned. The one in West Palm Beach, which you know all too well, which is primarily focused on mobility sensing and analytics, and that's been led by Jason's team. You're going to hear from Jason shortly. The Cosmos test bed, which is in West Harlem, that's an advanced wireless urban test bed, and Data City, which is focused on connected vehicles, and that's in New Brunswick, New Jersey. Our partnership extends beyond academics and government partners, but also has industry and innovation partners in order to help us realize what is a fairly broad mission. And I should point out we're in the middle of year 4 of what's a 10-year funded journey, and actually we go up for a renewal for the years 6 through 10, and so we're in that process, but we're hoping that this set of partners continues to grow. So this is just one of the kinds of visualizations that I often share with the community stakeholders. This is a scene where through AI and computer vision, we've actually anonymized what's happening on the streetscape. Something like this is also happening here in West Palm Beach through our research. But what you see here then is an anonymized version of people, vehicles, all classified, trajectories understood, and we extract the metadata effectively in real time, and we can help then choreograph different things. We can improve traffic timing, control through the understanding of what's happening in real time. We can create awareness, caution, alerts for outdoor work, roadside work, detect trash accumulation as it's occurring, have optimized routing. And economic development is a big part of it. So understanding dwell times, people's behaviors around storefronts, retail, and also helping with curbside logistics as well. So the urban freight is another area of application, and safe crosswalks. So we have one of our research group is working just on crosswalks and safety near schools. And finally, also around improved EMS or ambulance service delivery. This is a busy slide, I admit, but this is giving you an idea of the core technological research activities that are happening within these 5 research thrusts that I mentioned: the wireless edge, the situational awareness, privacy, security, and fairness, public interest technology, and also finally this application design. So all of these are routinely coordinated and reviewed each year, and we calibrate to pursue our objectives for the coming year. In terms of our research in practice, so As academicians, sponsored by the National Science Foundation, we are charged to do fundamental research, but also, in this case, for this kind of center, that it be translational and be applicable and applied in the near term. And just some examples of that you can see here. So there's increased, and these are all sort of associated projects, we would say, so increased funding. So we had a core funding of $26 million for 5 years, going for renewal for that shortly. But these are all additional projects now that are effectively snowballing, and our center is serving as a magnet and capacity to support other projects as well. One here on enhanced wireless. This is the Cosmos platform. I do a lot of work with the fire department in New York, which runs the ambulance service, to improve the response times and operational efficiencies of the EMS service. Another project to improve the computer vision pipeline from traffic cameras, so take existing investment in traffic cameras and actually create highly useful but automatic traffic counts, speeds, and different kinds of insights from that. And a number of other pilots, as I mentioned, a crosswalk pedestrian safety pilot, working on addressing the confluence of e-bikes, different kind of mixtures of mobility that is creating a kind of a streetscape chaos, which many of our community stakeholders would describe it as. There's new partnerships with Ubiquia on intelligent infrastructure, so street light, pole sensing, and communications, as well as I mentioned, connected vehicles research as well, and litter and vandalism detection. I think Jason will speak more to that as well. As I mentioned, our activities are beyond research. We focus also on education and workforce development, and we look at that all the way from K through 12 students up through our graduate students and postdoctoral students. So we're trying to make an impact on all of these. I personally believe that making an impact at the early age can really have the biggest effect on young students. And I think the theme of impacting your daily life is one that can really draw students to tech and engineering as well. And so we have, I think, pretty unique programs that combine the technology as well as the social science, the engagement, the ability to survey and interview people. We have a program around that for K through 12 students, mostly high school students, and that is done both in New York and also here in Florida. Programs for our undergraduate students to effectively have research internships within our labs. Also the development of a new Smart Cities certificate program at FAU. But then not only the students, but also we work with teachers, K through 12 teachers, and again, this is also being done in New York City, but also in Florida, to integrate ideas of smart cities and AI in particular into the curricula that science, math, computer science teachers then can bring to the classroom, so they can bring that real world context and hopefully bring the basic theory to life. And then of course we also work with our graduate students who are really the engine of a lot of our research, but importantly to help the engineer understand that there's more to this kind of work than just having the best widget, but actually that one needs to understand what the problem is and understand all of the user needs and requirements. And so sometimes engineers are not trained that way. And so we've introduced that into the graduate curriculum as well. Community engagement is a hallmark of everything that we do. So we have co-design workshops, so working with our community stakeholders directly. A couple of examples of one around cultural augmented reality and another around a pedestrian crosswalk, this bike safety issue that I mentioned. I mentioned the micro-credential program already, and that we also, in Harlem, we have an embedded sort of community partners in residence program where we stay in a long-term contact with groups of community stakeholders, and also some of the work with the high school students has been folded into West Palm Beach activities through this PCC Fellows program. And Jason can speak more to that as well. Probably this is not news to you, but in terms of community engagement here in West Palm Beach, primarily led by Jason's group, have been involved in intercept surveys, lots of different presentations to you, as well as to the PBC Public Works workshop as well. And recently, as I mentioned, we're eyeing towards our renewal, which we reviewed on this at the end of year 4 effectively, and so we recently had an internal retreat to refine our research agenda and educational activities in particular. And that was recently held up in Tarrytown, New York, and our Florida partners all came up for that. And that was highly productive and has allowed us to pivot and recalibrate our research agenda. So with that, I'm going to turn it to Jason, and then I think we can take questions at the end.
Thanks, Andrew. Mayor, Commissioners, Happy New Year. Thanks so much for having us. It's always a pleasure and a privilege to brief you on what we view as your Smart Cities Center. We're so grateful for the partnership. I've had the opportunity to work with cities really all over the country, and I say this at every meeting about this particular Smart Cities Center, that we've never had a partner like the city of West Palm Beach. I say that in this room, I say it in every room where I have a chance to talk about this center. So thank you in advance.
If you could just, since this has been recorded, just state your name.
Oh, of course. Yes, my name is Jason Hallstrom. I'm a professor at Florida Atlantic University. So thank you. I'm going to spend some time talking about some pilots that are taking place in the city of West Palm Beach. Several of these pilots you have seen before, but I think I'm going to have a chance to introduce a couple of new pilots. I'm going to start with the first one. This is the Mobility Intelligence Project, which many of you supported now back in, I think, when we started 2017, 2018, and that project has continued. That project is focused on answering 3 really fundamental questions. It's where do people want to go? How do they get there? What are the challenges that they face along the way? And we try to answer that with engineering innovation. We're interested in trying to understand how individual pedestrians move throughout the streetscape. If you're a Harry Potter fan, you can imagine this as a kind of a Marauder's map. So you're looking down at a map, it's totally anonymized, and you'd like the ability to understand where every single pedestrian is in real time without knowing their identity and not going to their homes or anything like that. This is public space tech. This works by measuring the signal strength from personal devices that people carry, from mobile watches, from cell phones, and other kinds of Wi-Fi enabled devices. We have today 55 sensors that are deployed along Clematis. That's about 800 meters along Clematis. And when we capture these signals that come from these devices at enough devices, and we can measure the strength at which those signals are received, we can triangulate position within about 3 to 4 meters of accuracy, and we can do that in real time. Many of you have seen the website before. I won't pull the website up. As I have said before, it has an awful name. We call this mobintel.org. It's a horrible name. It was intended to be mobility intelligence, but this is not exactly how it comes across in most public forums. As you can see on here, you could pull up on the website, we have all kinds of data products that provide visibility into the data. It's true for this project, and it's true for the next project that I'll talk about. Every pilot that we run in the city of West Palm Beach, the data we collect is made available to the public at the same time that it's made available to the researchers. Researchers do not have privileged access to anything. Everything that we collect is made public immediately. And so you can, at your leisure, take a look at the data products that are available through that website. I did want to mention that the data that's been collected from this website, rather through this program, has generated a huge amount of data over the years. We've seen some really interesting data about the impact of the pandemic, about the recovery from the pandemic, about policy interpretation by residents, by visitors, to understand how those policy signals are being interpreted and whether or not they're being followed. That data is being used today in courses at Columbia. It's being used in courses at FAU. We've made that data publicly available through something called IEEE Dataport, which is a national service for very large-scale data sharing. Now, more recently, we've begun to expand the mobility intelligence test bed to integrate new types of sensor technology. And so I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about the access we've been able to achieve to West Palm Beach's existing camera network. So we have access to a set of cameras throughout the city, and I'm going to show you how we have anonymized access to those cameras. I'll first just point out that immediately there are all kinds of interesting things that camera technology can provide you that you can't get from just measuring Wi-Fi signals. So we have the ability to detect litter, to classify litter, to detect dumping. One of the concerns that we heard from residents was we're interested in understanding nuisance pest activity, specifically raccoons. And so we worked with our colleagues at Lehman College, we worked with our colleagues at Columbia, and we developed models and new technology for detecting raccoons in real time and being able to map their activity patterns over time. So that's the kind of thing that cameras can enable, but they come with very real risks. Nobody wants to feel surveilled in public 24/7. And so what we've developed, and Andrew showed some of this already, we've begun to develop this technology that we've been calling a digital cousin. And so of course you've heard about digital twins. The idea of a digital twin is that you have a photorealistic representation of the physical world, you can do experimentation, etc. But a digital cousin is sort of like the real world, but it's not the real thing. It's a less faithful representation that hides details that are irrelevant to the questions you're asking. And so what you see on the screen here, you see, of course, some of the community engagement events where these ideas were actually formed. Chris and I actually ran some engagements where we were showing pilot ideas, and this idea gained some traction where we had residents who said, oh, I'd love to have that on my home. I'd love to have that in our neighborhood. That's the kind of thing that could be really helpful to us. And so we built it out. And what you see on the top right is an initial version of that digital cousin sort of pilot where you have these kind of cartoon avatars that represent what's happening on the real street, but we don't record the real street video data. So no one has access to that. We only have this kind of cartoonish version. Now we've extended that over time to make that more faithful. So what you see in the bottom left-hand corner, on the left-hand side and on the bottom left-hand corner, is you see the pilot version of this in 2 dimensions. It's a more faithful representation. And so the very bottom left, I don't know if you can see my pointer, I think you can. So if you can see where I'm pointing, that's the original video footage. Again, this is only for the presentation today. This is not recorded or made available to the public. What we actually record is a silhouetted version of this. We actually don't have access to the people, we don't have access to the cars, but we're able to faithfully capture their silhouettes. We're able to capture the same kind of analytics in a much more powerful, much more high fidelity way than we can do with just Wi-Fi signals alone. And we can do that in a way that is absolutely anonymous. What you see on the right-hand side is our movement toward doing this in 3 dimensions. We would like a 3D digital cousin that has 3D digital avatars, allows you to reason in 3 space about what's happening within the city, and to do that in a way that protects personal privacy. More recently, we've been working on litter dumping and vandalism. So what you see in the top right-hand corner are some early pilots of an illegal dumping system. So this is a system that detects, again, in an anonymized way. I'm showing you a non-anonymized video here, but detects illegal dumping, detects littering, and can generate alerts, it can generate analytics, can also generate notifications if appropriate. This technology has already been piloted in Coral Gables. We're refining it, and we're in the process of developing something much more robust that will be deployed in the city of West Palm. Now, Andrew mentioned that we have a full K through postdoc pipeline training program. One of the programs we're very proud of is the My Streetscape Summer Research Institute. I'm very grateful to the mayor and to the city for advertising that through social media channels to help us recruit students for that every year. Grateful to the library, who's been so generous in helping us with space and helping us with technology support to run that program for local kids here. What I think is pretty amazing and really fundamentally different than what I was doing when I was in high school is that the technology that I'm going to show you next, and actually the tech you just saw with the litter detection and dumping, that was developed by high school kids. So those are kids who were trained here just across the street in the library over the summer, and they continued on with us. And they were focused last summer on developing technology to improve public spaces with a focus on litter dumping and vandalism, and we had a focus in Heart and Soul Park. As many of you are aware, in Heart and Soul Park there is a problem with vandalism. We were particularly interested in damage to the mosaics. And so we had a couple of high school kids bright kids who developed technology to monitor those mosaics and to quantify in real time the amount of damage that was done to those mosaics. Of course, their lens is they're quite excited because they want to generate police reports immediately. So we said, well, maybe we don't do that this summer. But this is what they're thinking, is we can stop this, we can detect it immediately. Some interesting things that came out of this. Half of the students who participated with us during the summer program remained with us working part-time as researchers throughout the year. They continue to work with us as researchers throughout the year. Many of those students, as high school kids, have had their first major publications in professional technical venues. The young woman you see in the bottom right-hand corner, her name is Nidhi Begur. She actually won Best Presentation Award at a national conference competing against professors and graduate students and postdocs. This is pretty fantastic. She just received right before the holidays, she received news that she has become a finalist for the National Computing Research Association Award for undergraduate researchers as a high school kid. So really fantastic. The kids you see up top, Rashith and Emily, Rashith is a resident of West Palm. Emily lives in Boca. They've continued their work on the litter classification, litter detection and classification. New potentials. We have a partner, Andrew mentioned, BusPass. BusPass develops digital signage that has the ability to sense and do some computing. We are able to facilitate a relationship between BusPass and Guidant, who I know that the Commission is familiar with. There's some interesting business development opportunities between BusPass and Guidant, and some opportunities for the center as well. And finally, I'll just mention that we worked with Guidant to be able to collect autonomously camera and LiDAR data from the autonomous shuttle that was roaming throughout West Palm. We have a very large data set that we collected to help us build those 3D models of West Palm Beach that I showed earlier. Again, thanks for the opportunity. I'm going to turn it back to Andrew just to give a mention on the Innovation Summit. And then, of course, if we have time, we'll answer any questions. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Jason. So yeah, just one thing coming up very soon. In February, we're holding our CS3 Innovation Summit. This is for AI for Purposeful and Vibrant Streetscapes. And this is a summit a meeting that where we draw in, particularly feature the innovation team. So we have students going through innovation training, startup ideas, and they make their perfect pitches during that time. And our advisory board then votes on those, and one lucky winner will go on, get additional funding, but also go on to the innovation track run by NECX. But during that Innovation Summit, there'll be a number of panels. We've got keynote address from head of Google Public Sector, the president of NEC Labs, and we'll have a panel also focusing on the stakeholder benefits and economic development, and that's entitled Local Value of Technology in the Streetscapes, and we're very happy that Chris has actually agreed to join us for one of those panels. So if anyone is interested, please let us know. We'd love to host you there at that Innovation Summit. So I think with that, I think we can open it up to questions and handle that jointly.
Very good. Thank you for that presentation. A lot of very interesting information, and it's good to kind of see what is going on. I knew the sensors were there, and it's interesting how that is being applied. Questions, Commissioner Ward?
Thank you. That was interesting, and I appreciate I know that we've kind of gone over the early iterations, but it's nice to kind of go over a summary again of where we started and where we are now with your models. What are the next steps? So we've collected all of this data. We understand people's mobility or the changes in mobility, potential pollution. What's the next goal after that for cities like ours?
So I can say in broad terms, and probably Jason should address what plans are for West Palm Beach. I don't want to speak exactly to that, but the last thrust you mentioned, I mentioned, was this application development. So I agree with you. If we're just collecting data, then it's like you're an urban scientist, in my opinion. Nothing wrong with that. But we're engineers, and so we're looking to address challenges. And so I didn't get a chance to show you, but for example, the pilot that we're working on that bubbled up through our community in Harlem, for example, but this could be applied here, addresses potential conflicts between pedestrians and e-bikes, maybe even going the wrong way in bike lanes. This is a common issue in New York City, and there it gives an alert. So it detects this conflict that's about to happen, gives an alert. We have a pilot that helps blind people wayfind. So the infrastructure sensing is actually giving them very, very precise turn-by-turn navigation as they move through a complicated street environment, and giving them corrections and alerts as well. So those kinds of things. The EMS optimization work that I mentioned, that draws in all of this traffic camera data, so we understand in real time exactly what the situation is and can model traffic congestion flows to help optimize the selection of the ambulance and also the route. So those are just like some example applications. We have the safe crosswalk, crossing guard application that's happening in New Jersey, New Brunswick. Jason, probably you should speak to the applications that are envisioned in West Palm Beach.
Yeah, very happy to. So I'll start by saying it's very difficult to say what comes next, because the majority of the application ideas that we pursued have come from the community, so they've come from community meetings. Looking specifically at the mob intel data, so the data that we've collected on pedestrian patterns throughout the city, I think what comes next in the very immediate future is developing an application that uses that data for helping with property valuation. So this is something that we have tried to support in the past. So we have supported the city in providing mobility data around property that was going to be leased or rented to help. So there's this challenge that happens as you reduce the amount of vehicle traffic within the city. Because that is the primary means by which you count the number of folks who drive by a potential spot that's open for business, as you reduce vehicle traffic, you can artificially decrease the number of folks, the reported number of folks who are passing by a property. The pedestrian mobility data provides a way to fix that when you have a transition from many vehicles to fewer vehicles and more pedestrians. So that's what's coming next on the mobility intelligence side of things. I'll sort of come back to the fact that this data has been shared and is being used in classes at Columbia and at FAU. I know that in urban planning, our urban planning department at FAU, that data is being used to help understand the impact of heat islands. So there's a lot of interest in understanding the impact of heat islands on mobility patterns and lots of other things. So I guess maybe the point I'd like to conclude with here is that the data, our expectation is that this data will take on a life of its own. So it was never intended for us to own it. This is the city's project. It's the public's data. And we expect folks to use this in ways that we never anticipated.
President Lambert.
Thank you. I was just going to comment that, your presentation today is just a reminder of why these partnerships with our local universities are so important. I think you've put us at the forefront of national innovation, and I'm grateful for this. I'd love, I appreciate what you're saying about property valuation, and I think that could be valuable, but I think that, I'm hopeful that we'll use this data to help us to make better decisions here from the dais, staff and day to day, to maybe make better decisions as we invest equitably throughout our entire city. So I know we're collecting data right now in the CRA, but I'm hopeful that we can expand this and, either use this elsewhere to collect even more data or, start by using it here. So thank you very much.
Thanks so much. I'll add that using this digital cousin idea, it makes it much easier for us to collect that same kind of information in other areas. And so there is an existing camera network that's in place facing out from Heart and Soul. And so we can already collect that same kind of pedestrian information, vehicle information, near miss information between pedestrians and vehicles, raccoons. We can count all of that today using the existing camera infrastructure.
Commissioner Warren.
Thank you. I just like that website information again.
Sure. So it's www.mobintel.org. Yeah.
And that's MOBINTEL.org.
Yes, Commissioner, I'm afraid it is. Yeah.
Commissioner Ward.
Thank you, and I appreciate your response, so that you guys are acting as data collectors. I guess then I would like to see us as a group understand, now that we've had a chance to collect the data for a while, to see what our action steps are, because, you know, you talked about the heat spots. That's a huge issue when it comes to actually getting people out of their cars and walking and biking. The trash. The Historic Northwest District 1, I see it all the time. And so if you guys are collecting that data, how do we then translate that into making sure our police enforcement is top-notch when it comes to making sure that they know, okay, hey, we've got video of this, we can act that, and also respecting the personal data, because you're not identifying that individual by their face. So then how are they supposed to enforce? So I love all of this. I just don't want us to stop and say, this is cool, we're teaching people, very exciting, because on the flip side, I hear in my residents' meetings that delicate balance between engineering everything into perfection and enforcing. And so we have to balance that too. Yes, you can engineer a fantastic city. How are we doing that? Where are we doing it? Where are we getting the funds for that? But on the other side is, how are we utilizing these tools to help our police enforce some of these issues, and just in general, speeding and all of those other things. And so that's where I'm hoping that we continue to partner to try to guide us. And you know, again, you guys are doing this in other cities, and to your point, hey, you know, Harlem did this and this other city did this. That's where I would hope we as a body can take our next steps in learning how to use this data.
Well, thanks so much, and it's a conversation we'd love to have.
Thank you.
Or any other questions or comments? Thank you again.
Thank you.
And look forward to the next time. Item 7.2, NORA presentation and discussion regarding master plan and funding for the area between 7th and 11th Street along Railroad Avenue and portions of Brailsford Park. Mr. Rube?
Thanks, Mayor. So this is basically just an update and sort of a state of NORA, because it has been such a robust partnership between the CRA and NORA, and it is one of our targeted industries. So we're happy to have Joe with us from Place Projects and the NDD team, as well as CRA staff, to sort of present what we've accomplished so far and what can be anticipated with the future growth of the targeted area. Jade?
Alrighty. Hello, Mayor and Commissioners. Jade Green, Deputy Director with the CRA. I'm going to fly through my portion a bit because we've cut into their time, and I don't want to take away from Joe's presentation. But I'm pretty much just going to do a quick overview of the history of the project, the original agreement, some current progress against their milestones in that agreement, and then I'll hand it over to Joe first and his team to kind of dive into it a little bit deeper. All right, so we're all familiar with where NORA is located, just east of the railroad tracks on the other side of the historic Northwest. The CRA and NORA collaborated together for pretty much the ultimate, from what we've learned, the ultimate private-public partnership to kind of redevelop a historically neglected area of Brailsford Park and Providencia. After the regulatory changes were adopted in 2021, the CRA worked with NORA in kind of creating the new vision for this district. And these regulations kind of added a different level of development capacity for commercial and residential uses in this district. All right, within the RETA agreement, it included a partial completion of the street where the NORA district is, completion of the commercial spaces, vertical construction of the hotel, vertical construction and multifamily, and it also included a series of tenant improvement grants for all the new tenants that are coming into that district, the different businesses. All right, and these are just some pictures before and kind of the vision for after once developed. The infrastructure improvements included some utility upgrades, upgrading the water main, sanitary sewer lines, storm system, undergrounding the electric and communication lines that were hideous above that street. And then some of the above ground improvements included shade trees, street furniture, decorative lighting, all the pretty stuff, of which in the agreement that those hardscape and landscape improvements were the developer's responsibility. The CRA was responsible for everything in the public realm. Within their agreement, they had a schedule of completion. So all of the street improvements are done and paid. The commercial space is done and that is paid out. And the vertical construction of the planned hotel was actually ahead of schedule, of which this board approved last year, and also paid and done ahead of schedule. In addition, $1 million of the tenant improvement grants have been paid for fiscal year 24 and 25. So 10 of those tenants, of which I think 7 are actually open, H&H Bagels, Solid Core, Mint, Zen Hippo, just to name a few. And the only thing pending in their agreement is the vertical construction of the multifamily. All right, and this is just an overview of things in our strategic finance plan that the CRA and NORA are really working towards continuing to accomplish. So we've already had that infrastructure investment in the streetscape and street improvements, incorporating that public-private security partnership. We've conducted a CEPTED analysis and continue to incorporate some different safety initiatives in the district. In addition, like I just discussed, we have some incentives investing into the businesses within this target area for build outs and different business attraction, leasing and reinvestment. We are working towards, and Joe will dive into this a little bit more, the parking and connectivity to this district. And then ultimately, with this investment comes a phased CRA investment to continue to build into the NORA, Brailsford Park, Providencia area, of which, again, Joe will talk about how we're going to do that in the future. So I'll hand it over to Joe and his team now, and he'll have a presentation about what the current project progress and future looks like. All right. There you go.
Thank you.
No problem.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners. Joe First, 1105 North Dixie Highway. First challenge of 2026, encapsulating the last 7 years in 7 minutes to try to respect your time. So bear with me. I'm going to try to fly through this so you can ask some questions in the follow-up. Nora, well, it's a living, breathing thing. We're open. I know all of you have been there, so we'll do this as quickly as possible. Hold on 1 second. There we go. Okay. Project components, the first foremost was the infrastructure and the streetscape. In order to have a thriving place, you need utilities, infrastructure to service that. So, and thanks to the city and the CRA, we had the RETA agreement that was mentioned. That's all complete. The street looks amazing. It's active and it's vibrant. The second piece, in order to have a vibrant street, you need buildings that are filled. So we had the adaptive reuse of 11 buildings. We built 4 new buildings, and we have 160,000 square feet of space. We have the majority of that space already leased, even though our first businesses opened just this past summer. And then the vertical development, as you remember, all of the master planning that we did, we entitled about 2 million square feet of development. We have our first vertical project that's part of that master plan coming, which is the multifamily project, and we'll talk about that in a moment. This map, we'll do this as topically as possible, but this is our map that demonstrates kind of where we are in the city. The phase 1, the purple, that's the adaptive reuse, that's the main street, that's what we've spoken about. The blue is the hotel. I know all of you have seen the hotel under construction. The hotel will open this October, latest November. That'll be exciting. And then the orange is basically 5 different projects that we've broken out into 5 different phases. These are things that you haven't actually seen yet, so we're going to introduce these to you for the first time. So the phase 2 is the hotel. The phase 3 is the multifamily. It's 350 units of multifamily. Of the 350 units, 52 are part of the affordable and workforce housing program. The next property that you see to the north, which is phase 4, that's another mixed-use building. That one is also part of the affordable and workforce housing program. That has about 80,000 square feet of office, additional residences, and additional parking, surplus parking. You can see that phase 5 is the Nora condo project that's already in for permitting and starts its sales process this March. Phase 6 would be the redevelopment of the Checkers block, and phase 7 is the northwest corner, which is what we call the DAC lot. That's the site that actually has the most density and intensity to build. I'm going to skip through this. In terms of the initiatives, the CRA touched on these at the end of their presentation, but effectively the slum and blight removal, we've obviously started to attack with all of the vibrancy that we've been creating, the security subsidy that we've discussed and that went through the CRA process. We have hopes for additional assistance for public parking. We have additional parking that we need to drive into this district so that we can create the vibrancy and economic vitality that we want to see. And then, of course, the affordable and workforce housing. So as we talked about in the master planning process, it will be proven to be true that NOR will be the greatest provider of affordable workforce housing in the city, and in the way that, in my opinion, it should be done through mixed income housing, which is very exciting for us to have in the district and in the city at large. The infrastructure that we spoke about, just a fun before and after that you can see on the top and the bottom for those of you that don't remember what it used to look like before we did the work. Some fun before and after photos. This is where the Castone Yard was, which is now where our public sort of gathering space is, in between Giuliana's Pizza and another restaurant space across from H&H and Van Leeuwen. Repositioned building, the 965 building. This is one of the buildings that we took down. It was functionally obsolete. We built our fitness and wellness building there instead. That's where Solid Core, Sweat 440, and Celis Juice are. You can see the repurposing of vacant lots on the east side of the road for parking and our linear park. That's where Art in Public Places program goes in later this year. And then some of our interiors, we built these beautiful creative office spaces on the second and third floors of our buildings. Skip through this. Effectively, we've leased 71% of the space already. I think by the second quarter of this year, we'll be fully leased for all of the space, the 163,000 square feet. Really important to note, which you'll see here, that's over 800 jobs. I mean, let alone the construction personnel to build it, which was 400 jobs, but 800 jobs. And one thing I wanted to start talking about here, and I'll do it very quickly, is just what this means in terms of return on investment. So of course, the CRA and the city has made an investment in our infrastructure. We have future asks to the CRA and the city to help us with the infrastructure. And just this phase alone, as you can see, the cumulative incremental tax revenue based on our assessments over a 20-year period is $13 million just for the phase one. This is the most insignificant of the tax increment that we create because this is the lowest cost of construction. For the hotel, some beautiful renderings. As I move on through this, this is another one, again, 10, 15, 20 year. Over the 20 year, from 2025 forward, it's a $31 million increment from the hotel development, which is obviously being funded entirely through the private sector. The multifamily, I don't think anyone here has seen these renderings before, so I'll take a moment on these. This is a 12-story building in 125 feet. It has above-ground parking as well as a transient below-grade parking. That's part of the infrastructure request that we're describing. This is what the property looks like along North Railroad Avenue. This is the view from the north facing south down North Railroad Avenue with the hotel rendered on the right side and the One West Palm project that you see at the very back of the image. You'll notice too the amount of public space that we created. So rather than building the building right to the setback, we created this plaza that exists along North Railroad Avenue to create another gathering space. This one, as you can see, the workforce housing rebate. So we are participating in the CRA program for the subsidy related to the affordable and workforce housing. So these tax increments that we show are actually net of or after we receive that subsidy from the CRA. So even this project, which has a relatively large subsidy coming to get to those necessary rental rates to make the project feasible, still has a $25 million increment over the 20 years of the project. The next phase, this is another mixed-use residential and office building. Again, this has additional surplus parking that's meant for transient for the neighborhood. This is another one that also takes advantage of the affordable housing subsidy, and you see the numbers here. Phase 5, this is our condo. I do want to focus on this for one moment. So you'll notice that the assessed value number for this project is actually much smaller than the multifamily. And in talking to planning and the CRA, one thing that is important to point out is that the condominium development is a much greater producer of tax increment than the multifamily. So from a policy perspective, of course, we need to create housing through the affordable and workforce, but also having neighborhoods that have mixed product types for residential rental and for sale probably is the best outcome for the city. If you look at the cumulative incremental tax from the singular condo project, which is 117 units, it's $80 million over the 20 years post-development. So it's quite a robust producer of tax increment. This is another project. This is another thought of as a condo project. This would be where Checkers would lie. This is over $100 million. And then number 7, which is the DAC site. This is our most intense site. This is also thought of a mix of rental and condominium, and this one is over $100 million as well for the 20-year life. In total, this is kind of the big picture as to what this project will do from a tax increment perspective for the city. If you look at the cumulative of all of those projects put together over 20 years, it's almost $300 million. So thank you to the city for your support in all of the master planning efforts, the infrastructure initiatives, and of course to the CRA for all of your continued partnership and to really look at this as a true public-private partnership and the great outcomes that it's created. So thank you.
That's impressive.
The speech or the 300 million?
No, well, yes, the numbers are impressive, but the fact you got that done and still leaving 4 minutes for questions, that's very impressive. No, in all seriousness, it's a wonderful project, and it's good to see it coming to becoming reality. But I'll open it up. Questions, commissioners? President Lambert?
Thank you. I don't have any questions, just a comment, and thank you so much for your investment and partnership with the city and the CRA on this. This is a tremendous project, and I love seeing the reuse photos that you showed, the before and after, to see, how far we've come, and the discussion about the property tax revenue and the importance of having a mix of these types of developments. And I'm grateful and looking forward to the future projects. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Fox?
I don't have any questions either, but I do want to say thank you. This is such an exciting new opportunity for the city. I'm so happy that you're open. I guess I'm curious if there's anything that we can help you with now. You mentioned that you'll be coming back for other things later, but just in this first phase, while you're kind of getting your feet wet, are there things that the city can be doing to help you in terms of promotion or just other things that you might need as you're getting going?
Yeah, I think this is part public and part private sector, and Chris and I have had these conversations, but I think thinking through more thorough wayfinding throughout the city, really connecting the different districts. I went through this in my work in Miami and Wynwood. As these individual neighborhoods start to develop, they really start to connect, and all great cities are really just the collection of unique neighborhoods, and I think that's what you're starting to see happen here in West Palm. So trying to think about the user experience, getting from Clematis through City Place, through Nora, how to get mixed modal methods within all those districts and the right way to wayfind that so people can kind of make a full day out of exploring the different neighborhoods that the city has to offer.
Commissioner Ward?
Thank you for touching upon that, because I know that it's something that I always think about is how to get Spruce connected through what you're going to be doing, and I can't wait for you guys to finish the hotel, selfishly because I want to see that access open so that we can actually have connectivity between Pleasant City through into Nora in that open area. But the other thing I was just thinking, looking at the total economic impact